From Mosaic Marketing, this is Small Business Spotlight, a show that gives small businesses a spotlight to what they do. Yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and this is our premiere episode, and it gives me a great pleasure to have a great guest that I'm going to introduce in a few minutes, but I want to tell you a little bit about this guy. This guy is, he's been an on-air radio personality, DJ, and wellness coach. And one of the most unbelievable things that I found out about him is he is also a championship bodybuilder, which is freaking amazing. And in 2016, 2017, 2018, he took first place in the men's 50-plus Masters division.
He's old.
Of the New England Natural Bodybuilding Championship. And I'm going to have this gentleman talk a little bit about himself, and he can tell you about. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce John Cadillac, Saville. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, Marcel, good to be here. Who are you talking about? Some guy in the Masters 50-plus. Is that me? Am I really that old?
And that was in 19...
19?
No, I'm sorry, about 2018.
I'd be 85 now.
Yeah, no, right. Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
It's too much fun. We're having too much fun. Listen, John, tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, tell me about this bodybuilding thing. Well, let's go a little bit. We're going to jump around.
Sure.
The bodybuilding, that championship stuff, really, I mean, I've seen some pictures of you, and you were in freaking amazing shape at that time period. You still are. I mean, you look great. Tell me a bit about it. What's that?
Well, I've always been in the physical fitness, Marcel, going back to my high school days. When I played football, baseball, basketball, track and field, and I always just felt that, I needed to take care of my body. If my body, is taken care of, it's going to take care of me. So in order to perform at the best possible, become the best version of myself, I needed to take care of the vessel, so to speak. And I learned that from a lot of mentors at a young age. But I became involved with bodybuilding back in the late 80s for the first time. I met somebody over at Gold's Gym in New Haven who took me under his wing and said, man, you have a lot of potential. You could be a great natural bodybuilder. And natural is the key, because I was always kind of an anti-drug advocate. I was never a big fan of steroids or muscle growth hormones. I wanted to do it my own way, a healthy way. And he said that's exactly what he does. So he put me on the proper supplements. Nutrition is 80% of how you look anyway. Good workouts. Did my first couple of shows in the early 90s, did very, very well.
So how old were you? I'm not wanting to worry about your age, because anybody could Wikipedia you and find out your age, which is interesting about that. But you must have been in your 30s.
Mm-hmm, 30s at the time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Back in 87, so again, people can Wikipedia my age anyway. So at that time, I was 29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
And so I became the best version of myself physically, I think, about that time when I hit 30. And it just seemed like a light bulb went off. I wanted to do a show at 30 years old. Got into my show, finished top 3 or 4 in my first show. Then I won a couple. And then 20 years ago, after a bit of a hiatus, I won the Tri-State Championship in Tarrytown, New York, at a theater I know that you played at with your band. Yeah. And that was kind of cool. And then I hadn't competed again for a while, but I got the itch.
That's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This month or this year.
Right, 20 years ago. Yeah. Then in late 2015, for some reason, I got the itch again. I got tired of being on the cusp, looking really good, but not exactly where I wanted to be. I needed a challenge.
Right.
So a gentleman at the gym came up to me once again and said, man, you really should compete. You really should compete. You do really well, especially in the 50-plus category. So I competed in 16, Memorial Day weekend, took first place. And then I did the Tri-State after that. In September, won that. Competed again 2 years after, won both those shows. But it's not so much about winning the trophy, Marcel, because your body is the trophy. It's just getting up there and proving what can be done. I did it for myself. Right. Just wanted to go up there and look the best I could and be an inspiration that you don't have to look a certain way at a certain age. And plus, just making healthier decisions.
Well, and you talk about, like, your body is the vessel, right?
It is.
It's the place. So, and it helps you in a lot of different ways. When you're physically fit, you're mentally fit, and it helps you out in making positive decisions and bringing down your stress level. And there's a lot of great things. You don't have to be a bodybuilder to do that.
No, not at all.
Not at all. But exercise, and I'm a person you know, that goes to the gym at least 3-4 times a week, you know, and I'm walking and running. At one time, I was doing a lot of running, so it's I know that feeling. It's a great feeling. So you got into the whole bodybuilding and the championship stuff, just basically to really clear your mind, right?
It was. I needed the challenge at that stage of my life. You know, things have gone well in the radio biz, my DJ business, as a wellness coach, which we'll get to later on. But I figured also, since I was in the wellness industry, I needed to lead by example. So if I'm coaching all these people, I mean, I was the head trainer at a local gym about 10 years ago and had 40 or 50 clients, loved every minute of it. But I needed to, you know, up my game a little bit because after a while I seemed to be just kind of going through the motions and I needed the challenge. So I raised my game and proved to me, man, at this age I can still, you know, crank it up and do it and not use it. I mean, age is just a number.
Right.
It really is. I know so many people who are 30, 35 and they feel like they're old. And I said, man, it's just a number. You are what you feel. And I'm hoping to get back up on stage again next year to do it again.
Well, I'm going to be looking forward to that, you know, and I know that a lot of women will probably be looking to that.
I got a very trusting wife, thank goodness.
Well, you do. And Patty, she's a great person.
Oh,
so I
she's
tell
awesome.
you, it was nice. We had a wonderful, met John just the other day at a Sunday brunch with him and his lovely wife, Patty. And
we both have amazing women in our lives, don't we?
We're great. We're blessed.
Yes, we are.
So, John, tell me a little bit more about John Cadillac. How did Cadillac come into, you know, the word Cadillac? I mean, Saville, I mean, I get it, but how did, you know, that word?
Well, back in the early days when I worked at PLR in New Haven and some of these other stations, I was called Big John Saville. And when I started my DJ business, it was called the Big John Saville Record Shows. I had a van with Big John Saville record shows on the side. You know, I mean, it looked so, when you look at it now, it's so antiquated, going back 40 years. But then when I went to 92.5, before it went country, WWYZ, there was a morning show there. And John Saville and one of the guys said Cadillac. And it just kind of stuck. He said, John, he called me Cadillac before my nickname was to be Cadillac. And I went out to do a personal appearance one time, and a bunch of people said, hey, Cadillac. Hey, Cadillac. So I figured there's something there. People love nicknames. I really wanted to get rid of the name Big John Saville because I thought it had a connotation of me being rather large, which, you know, in a certain way, but it wasn't. So the Cadillac thing kind of stuck. And so I started using that on the radio back in maybe the late 80s. And to this day, I still use it on the radio at iHeart.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And do you remember what the show was that you were doing? It was a DJ show?
No. I was actually making an appearance emceeing a concert at the Oakdale Theater.
Oh, okay.
And some people in the front yelled, Cadillac. And I said, ooh, a light bulb went off.
Oh,
and so from that point on, I used Cadillac on the radio.
Okay. So that's how it came out. Well, that's great. So then tell me how you got into radio.
Always loved it. Always loved music. Always loved people. When I was a little kid, I used to interview people that would come into our home with a pencil. So anybody would come into my house when I was 4 or 5, 6 years old, I would take a pencil and interview them. My dad, mom would pick me up, put me up on a chair, and I'd interview people. And then I'd have my mom and dad come into my room and my friends, as I got a little bit older, and stack the records up on the 45s on the record player. And I'd do my Casey Kasem. And I'd stack 40 records on top, and I'd say, this is the John Cadillac, well, not bad at that point, but here's the countdown of the top 40 songs in the country right now. And at number 40, blah, 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 so-and-so got to start here and there, and I play it. And then I go to the next one. Then I do a weather forecast. I do a sports scores. And I used to entertain people fast-forwarding to high school at football games.
So did you, like, record on a reel-to-reel?
Reel-to-reel. We had those reel-to-reels.
Yeah, I know. Did you?
But we had a cassette deck back then.
Okay, so you had a cassette deck.
So I record on my cassette decks, and I still have some of those at home.
When you were a little kid?
Yeah.
So how old were you when you were doing those things?
Maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 years old.
Oh, really?
So I knew ever since then that I wanted to be in the radio business.
That was really cool, those 45 records.
Yeah.
You know, and you had the little player, and it had a column. What was that
It was
called?
a column, then you had the spindles.
Spindles.
Right.
But the column, you could load up.
You could stack the records up.
About 10 or 15 records, right? And then once one finished and the arm actually moved back,
Mhm.
it made the next record flip down.
Or you can manually do
Or
it if
you
you
can
wanted
manually
to.
do it, yeah,
So
yeah.
people of a certain age know what we're talking about.
Right.
But even younger folks who may be listening right now, records are more popular now than ever. Vinyl is on the way back.
Vinyl, and LPs.
I went to Bed Bath & Beyond, and to do some shopping, and they had vinyl on sale of all the top 10 records of today. So you'd have the newer artists up there, like, the Ed Sheerans of the world, the Brunos, the Khalids, and people of that nature, Shawn Mendes. You'd be able to buy their records, too.
Which is great,
I think it's great, too.
And it's also great because there's something about vinyl,
It's a very
opening up-
warm
Yeah.
sound. Plus, you're able to read the liner notes.
Right.
And the artwork was so much to look at the time.
Yeah, it was some photography that was,
awesome.
and it's stuff that they were doing. Even, some of the photography, they didn't have Photoshop or anything like that back then. So they would actually, do a lot of really interesting things.
Very much so.
With, lighting and all kinds of colors. And
I used to love to go to the record store, just Merle's Record Rack brings back memories, and Cutler's Record Shop in New Haven.
Cutler's in New Haven.
The Music Box in Hamden.
Yeah.
And that's the only place I could find country records at the time, because I was one of the few people of my age who would buy country.
Right.
But I'd have the top 10 country records every week.
Yeah.
I have the top 40 pop and rock songs every week. So once I had my 40, I would just add the 2 or 3 or 4 songs that would enter the countdown each and every week. And that was my fun time with my dad, Mom. They'd just take me to the record store, and I was such a geek. I had to have all the hits, and I spent my time just reading all the info, the songwriter, where it was recorded, the month it was released, the date, and I memorized it to this day.
You know what? I got to tell you, it's sort of a story of like where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
When I was same age, about 8, 9, 10, of course, the Beatles were just coming out, right? That was like 1967, around that time, 1968. My father owned a variety store, but in the variety store was a jukebox. And so it had all the top 40, 45s in there, and you play them for a dime, and a quarter, had 3 plays, I think. And so the guy would come in every week at the end of the week, like a Saturday, and bring in the new top 10 or top 20 45s.
Right.
And then he would grab the last 100, because it only held like 100. And so if he brought in 20, he would remove 20 from the bottom, the last 20 of them, because they all went down, sort of, right?
Right.
Or he would have a record that he knew who the top 100 were. Ones that were off the charts, those 20, he would resell them back to my dad for a dime a piece.
Wow.
So my dad would come home like on Saturday night with a paper bag of like 20 45s. And of course, I was a drummer, and I still am a drummer, but I would practice the same way that you practice with the 45s and click, play over and over and then flip them over and start all over again and play along with those records for the whole week until the next ones came out. And I was, back then I was like, again, 1967, 68, 69, little kid practicing my drums to those 45s, and they were all the top 40 tunes. And it just brought back so many great memories when you talked about those 45s.
Pure joy.
Pure joy.
Is.
Now, so when you were in high school, and then you went to college, right? Where did you go?
Southern and UNH.
Okay. And then what did you study there?
Mass communication and also journalism.
Oh, good. So then after that, were you at the college radio station?
Worked at college radio at WSCB at Southern, Connecticut, 640 AM.
All right.
And then I went to WNHU 88.7, University of New Haven. Great radio station.
Yeah.
Great signal.
How long did you do that for?
About a year, year and a half.
Yeah.
Somebody happened to hear me on the radio there over at KC 101 and WAVZ at the time, and needed somebody to work overnights. Called the radio station, got in touch with me, like what they heard. Boom. Started overnights in New Haven.
Wow. So that's how you started in New Haven.
Yeah.
And then, so it was just a phone call. Somebody heard you on the radio.
Heard me on the radio, which is very, very unusual, calling a college radio station. But the guy who called me is new from the market, moved up from Pennsylvania, happened to be cruising through the radio dial, liked what they heard when they heard me doing a show, and called the radio station to get in touch with me long before cell phones and all that. And the rest is history.
Wow.
When can you start? Boom. I could start tonight at midnight.
So that you did, right?
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, I was going to school full time. It didn't make any difference. I would take all my courses, night courses, go to the radio station, just sleep on the floor for 2 or 3 hours, do my midnight shift until 6, get a couple more hours sleep, go back to school. It's crazy, but it's amazing what you want to do, what you can do when you want to. You're young, you're excited, you're ambitious.
What was that like when your first real the college radio station, and I'm not saying that is real because I've been in some really great college radio stations and they're top-notch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They've got great equipment and everything else. But here you went from a college station to a professional station. What was that like for you?
Actually, at the time, the college radio station looked better than the professional one.
Really?
The equipment was that good at the University of New Haven.
Wow.
It was so good. But opening up that microphone and knowing that I was hitting, so many more people, tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands in New Haven, even at, midnight.
Yeah, because people really listen to the radio like more than they do today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a big.
Well, the thing is, you have so much more competition now with Pandora, Spotify,
Right.
iTunes, and people listening to whatever they have, or Sirius XM.
Or podcasts like this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But back then, it was just an amazing thing opening up and working at 13 Waves, WAVZ, which was a powerhouse in New Haven at the time.
Wow. So that was your early
Initiation, so to speak.
broadcasting,
Mhm.
early broadcasting experiences. What was the most exciting thing that ever happened to you while you were broadcasting?
Oh, man, there's so many. I could say, like, among the best times of my career, the most interesting and the most freeing were my days at PLR. Because we were over on Chapel Street in New Haven, and back then, even working the overnights, you never knew who was going to show up, who was going to go up the fire escape to come in the back door from Toad's Place, or the Agora Ballroom at the time, some of those hot spots. So I would be on the radio a lot when a lot of these entertainers would come up the back and they just hang out. We had like a little room adjacent to the studio with a pool table and couches, and people were doing everything under the roof. I mean, substances that you'd never find at a radio station now, but it's like, it was crazy. But they would just stop in, say hello, and had a chance to meet a lot of the folks who were coming up at the time. And we picked our own music back then, which they don't do at radio stations now. It's all playlists are all put together for you. But we were hired as professionals back then. We knew what the format was all about, how far we can push the boundaries, but we knew exactly what the mission statement of the radio station was. So PLR was amazing because we got a chance to really pick our own music and be an artist. And that's fascinating. I loved it.
So what was like one of the crazy experiences? One story. You have one story that sticks out in your brain.
I think one afternoon I was doing a show at PLR, and Def Leppard, Ozzy, and Motley Crue were all in New Haven at the same time, and they all showed up at the station.
That must have been
and
wild.
They were a blast. I mean, they were awesome. And they came in, but they were very very polite. Because a lot of what they do on stage is all part of their shtick.
Right.
But they were kind of shy, laid back, coming in, just doing their thing, and I was really surprised, how down to earth they were. Most entertainers are. I mean, I've really never met anyone who's been like really rude or off the cuff. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah, really cool. All right, so let's talk about fast forwarding. Okay, more fast forwarding. You've been in radio.
Mm-hmm.
Did you drop out of radio at all?
Oh, there are a couple of times I was let go. It's almost like a badge of honor in radio to say you've been let go or fired a few times, and we all have.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always been a big fan of multiple streams of income, having other things on the side, which I've been fortunate to have. They've done very well. But sticking with radio, for maybe 2 or 3 years, I was out of radio for for a while in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And then you got back into it.
Got back into it again,
Right, of course,
gracefully, and this gentleman reached out to me back about 2004 or 5, and did the morning show at DRC 102.9 FM, which is now the Whale. Had a blast doing 50s, 60s, 70s, early 80s. One of my favorite formats.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah. And then now you're with who?
iHeartRadio 92.5 FM up in Hartford, the country powerhouse up there, in the River 105.9, which is classic hits, 70s, 80s, 90s. I remember when classic hits used to be the 50s, 60s, 70s. Now the oldies are, Pat Benatar and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and AC/DC. That's oldies now. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. It really is crazy. And then you also have a DJ business. So you were saying that, what did you call it?
It was Big John Saville record shows back in 1980.
I love to see that logo. Do you have any old photographs?
I do.
You have to email me a photo. We'll
Right.
post it. I love to see those things.
Yeah, I got my start with records, and I remember having suitcases full of 45s and milk crates full of albums. The people of certain ages, they're nodding their heads right now.
Talking about milk crates too, you know.
Real milk crates,
right.
full of albums. Thank goodness for the milkman.
And those were the right size.
They were perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, you had to make sure you had the records, and make sure you had extra styluses just in case one broke during a gig.
Yeah. Well, tell a person what a stylus is. Some people might not
like
know.
a little needle you put on the record,
right,
to make it
little
play.
Diamond
Little diamond thing.
Where...
Yeah, but it was so much fun. I mean, the excitement of playing at my first DJ gig back in April of 1980 for the Guilford Police Union.
Oh, wow.
And I remember that to this day, and it was just so much fun to see the reaction of people in front of me actually dancing and enjoying what I was playing for them. Because I'd done that all my life, for my parents and guests who would come to the house with a little record player in my bedroom.
Right.
But now I'm doing it for like a couple hundred people.
Right.
And that immediate feedback.
Right.
The rush, the adrenaline, the
Right.
connection with the audience.
And
is
the
something.
music is really getting louder and louder, and people are having a great time.
And you're bringing people together.
And they're having a great time.
Right.
And you're emceeing over the top of this,
Right.
too. So, you're doing your little shtick that you were doing as a little kid.
Exactly.
In front of hundreds of people.
Because anybody can just stand there and play music, but to engage your crowd
Right.
and get involved with them and have that interplay, that's what develops that relationship and trust with an audience.
Well, I've read so many testimonials about your DJ business. What is it called?
Now it's John Saville Entertainment Company.
John Saville Entertainment Company. So I've read a bunch of on your website, which is
JohnCaddyman.com, put together by this great
Caddyman
company called Mosaic. Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll talk about
Marketing,
that too.
printing, signage. And
All right, we'll talk about Mosaic and why you chose Mosaic and all that. But let's the DJ stuff. You now do weddings,
weddings, parties, anything that requires a great DJ.
Restaurants.
Yeah, we do restaurants. We've done a lot of work with local restaurants. We've done, theme parties, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, any kind of backyard barbecues.
And then
class
I also
reunions.
heard that you'd have a little country line dance party.
We've done a lot
thing.
of country. Country's so big,
Yep.
especially nowadays, and people just enjoy that because people get together and they just, everybody from teenagers to grandparents can get together and enjoy the music. And line dancing is very, very popular.
So your entertainment company also, you have more than one DJ working.
5
for you.
DJs just hired one, looking to hire another one later this year.
Yeah, so you can cover a lot of bases, but if they really want somebody special, they have to get John Cadillac Saville, right?
It's still fun. Like my bride said to me the other day, what are you thinking about just, phasing out a little bit, letting the guys take over a little bit more? I said, babe, as long as people still want me at their gigs, I'm still relevant. It's still fun. I mean, I know all the new music as well as any teenager because I'm really into it. I've never been a musical snob. I'm like you, Marcel. I love all genres of music, and I know how to piece it together and drop it in the right place.
Yeah, you definitely are a musicologist.
Right,
I mean, I've some of the things in the history and the backgrounds of the players and people. I love talking to you about all that because you really do know the players, the performers, the writers, band members. You know everybody, and you do it because you research it. And I know you do. It's really fun that you can have that. That makes it very special to people when you can do that.
And I'd love to be able to share a lot of that with the audience without getting too geeky, so to speak.
Right.
But especially with a nostalgia type of radio station like The River from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I ask myself all the time, how can I make a song that I've played hundreds of times and people have heard it hundreds of times, how do I make that song sound new to that listener?
Right.
And, of course, a lot of younger people are coming in now, and they're in the Journey and all these other bands, too, the Go-Go's and Katrina and the Waves and George Michael and Wham. They're discovering these artists, and they're being introduced to the format as well and loving the same music their parents grew up with. So it's a really interesting paradigm. It's a great time to be a DJ now because parents and their children are loving the same music. And it's making my job on the radio and also my DJ gigs a lot easier than it's ever been. Because now kids are not looking at, oh, that's old, that's my mom and dad's music. They love Journey and Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and Bryan Adams and Hall & Oates as much as, we do. Mm-hmm. It's very cool.
Very, very cool. So, again, if anybody's looking for a DJ for your wedding or your party or even a backyard barbecue.
Sure.
This is you bring all the equipment and lighting and everything else.
We have it all. Whatever people need, we have it all.
That's cool. So then you found Mosaic.
Ah, yes, I did.
How'd you get into choosing Mosaic?
I needed the facelift with my DJ website. And the website previous was really good. The guy who did it was fantastic. But then I was approached by Al Canosa, the amazing Al Canosa, at a couple of networking events here in the Brantford-Guilford area. And he approached me and said, I think we can do some interesting things with your website. He says, we need to kind of raise the level a little bit more, and we think we can do that. And I met with Al, then I met with you, obviously, and got to know you a little bit better. You and I have known each other by reputation for years. And I had a lot of respect for you and the type of person you are, and also Al, top-notch. And you said, here's what we can do for you. And I looked at it. We got a chance to develop relationships. You kind of got inside my head. What is my vision for the business and where it's going? And we connected. And, boy, I'll tell you, ever since you guys have taken over, we've gone to a whole new level.
Yeah, your website looks great, and Mosaic does website development and SEO. And
right. I mean, we talk marketing, printing, signage. I mean, you guys do it all.
Right. And now we have this great podcast, help small businesses with the Small Business Spotlight. Because one of the things that you also do is you're a spokesperson. So you do radio commercials, right?
Yeah.
Voiceover stuff, right? And now live in-person events. And then also now you start talking about a little video, too, of you on-screen spokesperson, which you've been doing commercials for a long while.
At least audio versions, but now we're getting into the video end of it.
Right. So tell me about, this spokesperson thing.
Well, it seems like, if a business wants to get out there, it's all about developing a relationship, and a good spokesperson is vital to any business wanting to build their profile and their reputation. So, Marcel, if they can put a face to the organization and can effectively communicate that message to the public and the media, you're more apt to make that connection. And people do business with people that they know, they like, and they feel they can trust. And your company at Mosaic is able to put that together and make it come across that way, just connecting the right people with the right business. But sitting with that business person and saying, what do you want to accomplish? What's your mission statement? What is your goals? And putting that message across and finding the right spokesperson who can do that and just gear it toward that audience. And that's where we've been able to team up on a couple of occasions. We did something for you, for Mosaic. And I know we've had several other people reach out to us and say, hey, listen, could you do the same thing for us? And, of course, we can.
Right. And you've got a great voice. And you look great on camera, too. So all those things are really beneficial. And you're right. I mean, it's really important to put a face on that organization, in some way. Put a face so that people actually can see and feel a new way of experiencing the product or service or whatever it is that you're talking about.
And real estate people have had this down for a long time by putting their pictures on their business cards, or when they do billboards. They have their picture up there, and you get a chance to see that person, and you feel like you know them better than just a name. So to develop that relationship, you and I both know, Marcel, that successful people are able to be like chameleons. They're able to adapt to anybody, their personality, what they're all about. And that's by getting out there in the public and meeting people, going to networking functions, listening to people, finding out what their needs are, and addressing how you can help them with that need. And that's something that I've always enjoyed. I love meeting with people and letting them talk. And I can find ways to help them.
Now, one of the things that you've been helping us with, too, is the digital signage stuff. And that's all new to you, right? Basically, you didn't you didn't know much about digital signage, and you started working with us and becoming a spokesperson and that service that we offer to our small business customers.
That is a great benefit, especially to a lot of your restaurants out there, your coffee shops, because let's say it's a digital signage, and it has the capability to quickly implement new sales, offers, products. But when you think about it, Marcel, it's the best way to keep your brand consistent across different locations. And everything's about consistency with your marketing. You want it to be consistent, whether it be on your menus, in your restaurant, on your signage at the coffee shop, whether it be billboards. And if I can use an example, guacamoles. I mean, what a great, beautiful billboard, a couple of those you have with that wonderful restaurant. And it's top-notch, too. So their product does benefit, it's consistent with the billboards and everything else. Everything's top-notch.
And we're also putting digital signage in their restaurant, right inside of it. So it can, change quickly and automatically from one day to another. That's one of the benefits of having digital signage. I mean, it can be, say it's a price list today, and then it changed, or you have a sale. You could change it automatically and be consistent from, like, if you have multiple locations, like you just said. I mean, if they have a location in Milford and they also have a location in Brantford, the same information can be changed instantaneously at both locations simultaneously, because we do everything over the internet.
And I love what you do here at Mosaic, because, business owners want to focus on money-making activities. They want to focus on servicing their customers. And you're able to take care of whatever they need. Like I know with my DJ business, I don't want to worry about the day-to-day stuff of updating my website and getting pictures and video up there. I can say, Marcel, Albert, I send you pictures, PDF files or pictures that I want up on the site, or reviews from Wedding Wire and The Knot.
Yeah, we just had a great review on The Knot. Fabulous review. And that next hour after you got it, it was on your website.
Yeah, see, and that's the kind of stuff that I don't have the patience to do. I know my personality. I want to get out there and shake hands, and well, I guess you can shake hands in some cases now, but I want to get out there metaphorically and just meet people and get to know my customers and, make new friends. I don't want to necessarily be sitting in my office doing all the computer day-to-day stuff, and that's where you come in, and it's just made my life a whole lot easier and more productive.
Yeah. Well, we love doing it. We really do, and that's one of the things that we really cherish, like working with customers like you and clients all over the state of Connecticut, and actually all over the United States now that we've been doing this stuff. So it's been great. And the digital display stuff, is an attention getter.
Mm-hmm.
That's really a neat thing about it, because when a customer comes into a restaurant or a lobby of a business, and they see the digital signage, now they have their attention,
And once you've got their attention, that's going to lead to sales at the same time. And there's so many missed opportunities out there. When I go into a certain restaurant, I see TV sets everywhere. And then some of these TVs have soap operas on them or something else, and it's like you're missing an opportunity here. With your digital menus or billboards, you're going to be able to have specials of what's going on. Or if you want to promote Cinco de Mayo coming up, or you have St. Patty's Day, whatever, you can put things up there. And you can also have, updated weather forecast in your area, this and that. It can be very topical, and it can change. And it can get your message across and brand exactly what you have. You have an audience there in your location, and you've got their attention. Take advantage of it.
Right, and then it's also people just walking by,
Right.
or waiting in line,
Mm-hmm.
because occupied time feels shorter than unoccupied time.
Yes, it does.
So when people are waiting in line, why do you want them to look at a television show when you can have them be looking at some of your sales or your product line, or maybe even introduce one of your sales staff by, hey, this is the salesperson of the month, or,
Exactly,
or something like that.
That's right.
Where then they can get to know somebody, and then when they walk up, they already know the person's name.
Hey, we just saw your picture up on that digital billboard. Wow, that's you?
Yeah, the digital signage in your business, or you got coffee that is specially made for October, which is pumpkin spice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then maybe in Christmas you have peppermint coffee,
Right.
and you can change it right away.
St. Patty's Day, you promote your corned beef and cabbage that's coming up.
Exactly.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah, so it's really an attention getter.
Mm-hmm.
So digital signage and what Mosaic is doing with digital signage is fantastic, and we love having you as our spokesperson talking about digital signage, and I'm glad you've learned a little bit more about that, and I hope people listening in learned a little bit about that. And this whole time with you, John, has been fabulous. I love you so much. You're such a great person, and it's a pleasure to have you on the Mosaic team and being our first guest on our first podcast, Mosaic's Small Business Spotlight. Thanks, John. Thank you very much.
Marcel, back at you. I love you too. I love Alan. I love everything about you guys in this amazing company here at Mosaic.
Thanks, John.